in, everyone. Come on in because we are here for Love and Marriage DC. We are here for season 2, episode 6, and they're calling it the Comeback Kid. The Comeback Kid. What is the Comeback Kid? Is that for Anthony, for all the stuff he does with the kids? He making a comeback to the community? Is that what the Comeback Kid is all about? I'm trying to remember why we got the title, the Comeback Kid. But I'm going to retitle it Gender Disappointment. I'm going to call it Gender Disappointment because I think the MVP of the show was actually the aunt of Kobe. The MVP of the show was the aunt of Kobe. We've been talking all season long so far about, we believe, or let me just say I believe, that Kobe is really doing a bit too much when it comes to her gender disappointment. Like, I get gender disappointment. But what I don't get with Kobe is how she's displaying it around her daughter, how she's framing her daughter. And it's so interesting. I saw another clip earlier with Kobe when I was about to watch this episode, where she was saying that one of the reasons why she's so close to her father and closer to her father, she's a daddy's girl, she said, is because her mom always takes the man's side. That's what she said. So I guess Kobe has a brother. She said her mom is a boy mom. So isn't this ironic? She said her mom is a boy mom. And so the reason why she's so close to her dad is because her mom gravitates more to the son. And what she does is she's always, doesn't always agree with Kobe. So this is interesting because then what this does is it says, okay, Kobe, that's how you felt. That's how you, and it sounds like she didn't like that. She didn't like the fact that her mom was a boy mom. And so now Kobe is kind of doing the same thing to her daughter, because I feel like in a lot of ways she thinks her daughter is running to Russell, the one she has now. But in a lot of ways, she's kind of pushing him to Russell. And it's really the same thing she said has happened with her. So if she didn't like it in her own life, you would think that she would somehow try to correct that in her own parenting style. But yet, like a lot of us, right, we end up following in the footsteps of our parents, even sometimes when we didn't like what our parents did. It's a really, really weird dynamic, and we have to consciously fight against not becoming our mothers or not becoming our fathers, because we recognize things that we didn't like in our childhood, the way we were parented. And the next thing you know, you find yourself doing some of the same old things your parents were doing, unless you consciously say to yourself, I don't want to be that way. But I'm going to tell you, this aunt was the MVP. And what I found so interesting about their conversation, and what I said to myself about Kobe, is Kobe's really, really insensitive. When I was talking about the way she's dealing with the daughter, I always felt like she's not looking at how her daughter might feel. And maybe this goes back to maybe she felt that her mother didn't think about the way she felt. But in her not looking at the way another person feels, she can talk to a person as if that's weird. Like, who goes and talks to an aunt and starts talking about all this gender disappointment to this degree? I'm not talking about just saying, hey, I wish I would have had a boy. That's one thing. But we got Kobe down in the dumps, depressed, whining and crying all the time. And we come to find out that this aunt is a twin of her mother. Her mom is a twin. That's interesting. I wonder if Kobe could, sometimes you say if your mom had twins, you're going to have twins, or if you're coming from a family of twins. I thought that was, Kobe had a chance to have twins. I bet she would have liked that to get it over with at one time. But anyway, her mom is a twin, and she started talking to her aunt about gender disappointment. And she's really deep into it, as we know. But we come to find out that the aunt has always wanted to have children, but the aunt has had 2 miscarriages. And we're not talking about just 2 miscarriages of 2 individual children, 2 miscarriages were both times she was carrying twins. She tried a lot of different ways to get pregnant. Of course, the natural style. She tried IVF. A couple of times she lost the babies early. Another time the babies lasted 14 weeks and then she lost the babies in the womb then. So here's a woman that's been through a lot to have children, a lot. And to the point where she was depressed over it, which that I can see. And Colby fixes her lips to talk about how she's got gender disappointment. I couldn't even fix my lips to talk about how I'm disappointed over having another girl while I'm sitting in front of a person, not alone just a regular stranger or anyone, my own aunt, knowing that my aunt has her whole life wanted to have children, has suffered through, you really can say 4 miscarriages because there was 2 babies each, 4 miscarriages. And you listen to her story. And then after she told her story, or before she told her story, she talked about, I got real gender disappointment, Auntie Carla, real gender disappointment. And then when the aunt starts telling Colby, you know, you ought to be grateful. You ought to be grateful. You ought to be blessed that you can even have children. You know, basically, Colby, you should be just praying that the baby's healthy at this point in time. You can have gender disappointment, but should it linger this long? Should it be what you run around talking about? You know, your baby can hear you. Your baby can hear you. Your baby can feel your vibes. And it's nothing wrong with expressing, oh, I wish I was having a boy or I wanted a boy. But it seems to be Colby's constant conversation over like a broken record. I mean, sometimes people play their babies in the womb, soft, soothing music. But now this baby that Colby's carrying has to listen to the mother talk about how she don't really want the baby. I didn't want a girl. It's just so sad to watch. But the mother told a very heartwarming story about after she lost her babies. She talked about after she lost her babies, her husband was in the ministry doing ministry with the church. And he wanted her to come and start working in the church and work in the youth ministry. And the mother was like, I don't want to work. Those are someone else's kids. She was just so heartbroken over not having her own kids. She didn't even want to work around kids because it was probably just triggered her too much from the pain of her not having her own children. And eventually she decided to go and work in the ministry after a lot of, prompting by the husband. And she said that's actually when she started to really heal. She really started to heal, and she really started to heal a lot of the disappointment and the wounds she had. And I tell you, it was a really, really touching moment. And after she went through all that, talked about her miscarriages, talked about her journey through the church, talked about how the children of the church became her children and how she loves them so much. After that long speech, Colby goes right back to talking about herself and says, yeah, well, everyone has different struggles in conceiving. She talks about how she had a miscarriage. Colby said that she had a miscarriage early on. And even Russell was like, oh yeah, I forgot, because I guess it was very early on. I guess it was very early on because Russell almost said he forgot about the miscarriage. So I'm not going to classify this miscarriage versus that miscarriage, but I think the journey of the aunts was probably a little bit grander and more, I don't know. Like I said, I don't want to classify what it feels like because I've never had a miscarriage, so I don't want to say that. But the timing of Colby's statements is, I think, kind of what I want to get to. Is that after someone tells you this story and then you go back and say, yeah, well, everyone has their struggles in conceiving. And then she goes on and says, well, I don't want to make it seem like, I don't want to come across as if I'm angry for having another girl. But girl, you are. That is how you're coming across. So how can you continue in the same behavior, but yet say, I don't want to come off that way? Well, that's what everybody's telling you. You coming off that way. You coming off that way. And yet what she says is, well, I don't want to come off that way, but I still want to keep talking about it, how I got gender disappointment. Kobe, what you probably need to sign up for, I don't know. I don't know if it's therapy. I don't know what it is with Kobe, but maybe we're getting a little bit of whiffed of it when she starts explaining what's going on with her mother, right? In a lot of ways, it's almost like Kobe's about to repeat the same patterns that she didn't like with her mother. And I think maybe the reason why she's even more depressed is because she looks at her mother and says, well, my mother had a boy and a girl. So my mother, even though she didn't always agree with me as the girl, she did get her boy. So she's a boy mom, right? And then Kobe went with a dad and was a daddy's girl. But now what Kobe is saying is, oh, I wanted to create those same dynamics in my house. My daughter, her little daughter, has already gone with the father. And so now Kobe's saying, I want a boy, because if I don't get a boy, that girl is going to go with the father too. It's almost like Kobe thinks mothers and daughters can't have good relationships or close relationships. And I'm not saying that she's feuding with her mother, but it's quite obvious that because she said it out of her own mouth, that she has a closeness to her father that she doesn't feel with her mother. And now what she's saying is the only way to feel that bond with your child is to have a boy. Kobe needs some therapy, y'all. Kobe needs some therapy. She says she never wants to come off as being disappointed. Well, how can you say you don't want to come off being disappointed when your opening statement was, I got gender disappointment? Your opening statement was, I got gender disappointment, but then after your aunt tells you the whole story, you say, well, I don't want to come off as disappointed. And the mother said, no, you can't look at, not the mother, the aunt said, you can't look at your daughter like that. Your daughter has purpose. Nothing is by mistake. There's a reason for it. You know, Kobe, maybe your daughter is here to save you. Because to be honest with you, Kobe, you're a bit lost. And maybe your daughter is here to teach you a lesson that maybe you can have a good relationship with daughters. Mothers and daughters can have good relationships. We're talking a lot throughout these, I want to say these reality TV shows about mother wounds. A lot about mother wounds. And Kobe seems like she has a good relationship with her mother, her aunts, all these other kinds of things. But she exposed a mother wound and how that mother wound is manifesting in the way that she's mothering her children. Right? And Kobe has a chance to fix this. And I'm so glad that this aunt came on because, like I said, the aunt is an MVP. An aunt is the MVP. And I'm hoping that the words of the aunt and the aunt sharing the story with Kobe will make Kobe get turned around. I hope Kobe turns around, y'all. I really do. I hope that whatever thing that she experienced in her childhood with her mother, she doesn't just keep repeating it with her children. But that's all I got to say about that. And talk about repeating stuff. We're not going to have to talk about it long, but we're going to talk about this Kimberly lady once again because they had to wrap up this argument they had in the restaurant. And come to find out, we're still going back to this this Android phone 6 years ago when Christina's friends disrespected Kimberly, and Kimberly has now been holding Christina hostage for that for 6 years. Because your friends, Christina, disrespected me, I felt disrespected. And Christina said, yeah, but I wasn't the one that said it. Doesn't matter. Kimberly feels disrespected. And so she proceeds to throw all the clothes on the floor that she has bought from Christina. Christina says, I don't care if you throw them clothes on the floor. You already paid for them. There you go. People really try to come at Christina, but they're no match for Christina. Kimberly walked out of that restaurant. Christina said, I'm going to sit here and finish my drink. You can go. Christina said, I'm going to sit here and finish my drink. You can go. And Kimberly got up, put on her fur coat, and sashayed on out of there with her clothes laying on the floor. And Christina said, I'm real good with not being real good friends with you. We don't really have to be good friends, but we can be civil to each other. We can be civil to each other. Something tells me that Kimberly may not have really, really good friends, which is why she's so angry at the thought of losing Christina. I think Christina has a full life, and she doesn't feel like I've got to go through all this mess to be friends with you, Kimberly. I don't need to have this type of friendship with a person because I got other options. I got other options and girlfriends. I got other options and other things I'm dealing with. I don't have to fight for this relationship with you, Kimberly, because it's not that significant to me. On the other hand, Kimberly seems as if her relationship with Christina was more significant to her. Kimberly, just go get you some other friends. Why are you fighting so hard with Christina? Or it's just your whole storyline for the season. This is her whole storyline, fighting with Christina. But Christina said, I got another storyline. My storyline is getting back into this music. And it was interesting to see Christina get back into music. And I don't know, maybe this is the comeback kid, her coming back to music. But really, y'all, can Christina sing? I don't know. It didn't sound that good to me. I'm not going to lie. Christina didn't sound that good. And then when she was in the booth, because she's going to be singing this song for the Detroit Pistons, and she's like, oh, I can't do it. I'm rusty. I need Brandon here. The producers are going to say, what? We got a whole studio book. We got an engineer here, producer here, and you talking about you can't sing without Brandon by your side? I need Brandon. I need Brandon. Christina's like, she wants her husband involved in her life. This is what Christina wants. She's tired of her husband investing and pouring into other women in their careers. She wants her husband to pour into her. I get you, Christina. Christina said, I need some attention. I want some attention. So Brandon wasn't there at first, but she dragged him on over to the booth. He came. He became her muse. He helped her through the song. He coached her. He told her what to do, what not to do. I think Brandon was right about Christina's singing career. I don't think Christina can sing that well, y'all. I know she says she come from a musical family. Her mother was a singer or writer or whatever. So was her dad. But I don't know. I'm hearing auto-tune is going to become necessary. Auto-tune is going to become necessary. But you know what? It was what Christina needed to feel close to her husband. So it became bigger than the song. It actually became about her doing something with her husband that she enjoyed and that she wanted and that she needed. And she felt close to him. She felt sexy to him. She was feeling loved again. And that was enough to say, hey, I want to invite you to come on back home. So maybe that's the comeback kid again. The comeback kid is coming home. Maybe this title wasn't so bad. Now we got the comeback kid in Brandon. Brandon gets to come back home. So he's like, I'm back, baby. I'm back at home. He goes on home. He gets to hug on his girls. His girls are so cute. And they say, how did you feel about when daddy was gone? And the little girl said, I was sad and I was angry that you would leave us. That you would leave us. It was sad to watch those little girls say that. But in one way, they have these conversations with their daughter. And I was glad the daughter got to express that. So Brandon and Christina could be able to see that once you have children, you have a marriage, it's not actually just all about you. You are actually in control of another person's life. You're making decisions for another person's life as well. And don't always think that the kids agree with you. Don't always think that just because mommy or daddy is a little bit unhappy or a little bit bored, that child then believes that, okay, I see that maybe mom, you're a little bit unhappy. You wish dad would do this. You're a little bit bored because you want more excitement in your life. But I'm content. I'm happy with daddy here because I ain't sleeping with daddy, and the stuff daddy's doing for me, seeing him every day feels good to me. So a lot of times, unless there's so much toxicity in the house that it is affecting the children, sometimes the parents are just making the decisions for themselves. They like to convince themselves that they're making it for the children. But if you really let real children speak, a lot of children will say, I don't care that that's what you're going through with my daddy or my mama. I really don't care. I want my daddy here. I want my mama here. So people really can't always hide behind, I'm getting divorced because I don't want my child to see me unhappy. You hear that a lot. I'm getting divorced because I don't want my child to see me unhappy. But a lot of times those children still don't equate your unhappiness to wanting to break up what feels good for him or her. I hope people see that. I hope they see that just because a child can see that maybe you're unhappy or maybe they can't, that means then that their solution to your unhappiness is to break up their home, right? You're unhappy, so you break up our home. How about, that's why I always say before people get divorced, really try other things that can make you happy in your marriage. Try, because sometimes after divorce, I said it on another video, the things people want to make them happy, they could have done it while they were married. Some people say, well, we don't do anything, our marriage is boring, and then they get divorced and they find ways to do more interesting things in life. They travel, they start maybe having a monthly brunch with their girlfriends, they pamper themselves more. Well, do those things in marriage. People wait sometimes to do those things for themselves after they gotten divorced, but they don't realize that sometimes you can do those things in marriage. But the problem is, in marriage, a lot of people feel like they want it from their spouse. Like, this is what I want my husband to do. Like Christina, she wanted her husband to be in the music booth with her. That's what she really wanted. She wanted that attention from her husband. But let's say that Christina went ahead and got divorced because Brandon wasn't stepping up and being in the music booth with her. I got it. So let's say she gets the divorce. Well, what now, Christina? You would have gotten a divorce, and guess where you would have been? In the music booth alone, without a husband. Now was she thinking, oh, I'm going to go get another man to be in the music booth? No, she would have found a way to be happy in the music booth all by herself. She wanted her husband there. Yes, she did. She felt that was the best ideal thing. He wasn't there initially. And it looks like the reason why they were having problems is because he wouldn't come. He wouldn't help her. But that's where she really wanted him to be. But let's say she got a divorce and she broke up. Does that mean she wouldn't pursue her music? No, I bet Christina would have pursued her music even more, and then she would have went in the music booth by herself anyway. So that's the thing I'm saying is, one, you can want something from your spouse, but don't make it become the point that either gives you or takes away from your happiness. You can have a preference. You can say, oh, what I want for dinner tonight is a steak. But just because you don't have no steak doesn't mean you should go hungry. And that's what a lot of people do. They want something from their spouse. When their spouse doesn't give it to them, then they go hungry. And then that's when they say, that's why I got to get divorced, because I'm so starving for it and my mate won't give it to me. So anyway, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I tell you, I'm happy to see Brandon's back in the house and that they're working their way through it. And then the other part we watched this episode was the whole backstory on Anthony and the man's movement. And he gave a lot of background on how his father started a youth program when his father was alive. We got to see his aunt, who's been very influential in his life. And it also talked about Anthony's family. It's good that they're trying to put Anthony in a better light. That's good, because let me tell you, he comes across as a villain. And he brought all the men together for the man's movement and spoke to some kids at a high school, which was great, showing him trying to pour back into the community, which was wonderful. And then Brandon was supposed to come, but he came late, and he came up and showed up. And when he came up, he asked Anthony, hey, do you think there's a possibility you should apologize to Christina for calling her a bird? And Anthony doubled down and said, I'm not apologizing to her. And he said, man, you run around doing this man's movement, talk about what it's like to be a man, but you can't even do something like apologize to Chelsea. And he says, that's right. I can be a hypocrite. That's what Anthony's saying. I could tell other people how to step up and be an honorable man. I could teach kids, but I can't show them because I'm not honorable. He should apologize to Chelsea because I don't think that he should have said the things that he said to her, calling her a bird. And even in this moment, he said, Chelsea ain't nobody. I don't even know why you want to apologize to her. And Brandon said, well, she's somebody to me. And then he said, well, I guess he is because you down here too, Brandon. So once again, there's Anthony putting somebody down. He and his wife have a big problem with putting people down. They really believe they're so highfalutin and so high class. But the fact that they put people down so much really talks about that they're kind of low class. They're low class. I don't care how much money they have. I don't care how many fancy degrees they have. They're low class in the way that they treat people. Somewhere along the way, they thought that maybe people who have money or prestige can treat people poorly. That's the way they think about people. That kind of tells you why they really ain't got no real money. Because really, people who have a lot of money, they don't necessarily think of people like that. Like, oh, you're so low class, you're so beneath me. I don't know where Anthony and Latoya get this mentality. But the fact that he has his man's movement and he's going to speak to children, but yet he doesn't think it's appropriate for him to apologize to a woman that he called bird. I think that's a problem. I think he said he ain't going to apologize. He's doubling down. He will not apologize. But anyway, that's all I get for Love and Marriage DC. Hopefully y'all will come back tomorrow. Mass is starting, y'all. Married at First Sight is starting tomorrow. So probably tomorrow, I probably will do a video on maybe the matchmaking special, because I didn't watch it. I'm going to try to watch it tonight. And then we'll do the mass actual review, hopefully the next day. Hopefully I can get it out the very next day. But that's it, y'all. Thanks for stopping by. Talk to you later. Bye.